To the High Stakes Fantasy Network. I'm your host, Greg Ambrosius, and I'm joined today by a very special guest. He is NFFC Hall of Famer Chad Schroeder, who is one of the best, if not the best, player in high stakes fantasy sports. Chad, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here. It should be a good time.
Hey, is it as hot in Nebraska as it is everywhere else?
Yeah, it's wicked hot here right now, and my air conditioning's not up to par for some reason. So I'm roasting here. I'm hoping this little storm hits us that's maybe coming through. Cool.
Yeah, this has been coming from the west, and everybody's hot. Like I told you, I'm up in Wisconsin, and I'm far enough north where it was only a high of 80 today, but back home in Iola it was 94. So it's hitting everybody, but we're supposed to get rain tomorrow, so maybe that'll wash it out too. So, but cool. So, you know what, Chad? One of the coolest things about high-stakes fantasy sports is our players are from every area of the country, right, in Canada, too. I mean, you don't have to be in an NFL city. You live in Omaha, Nebraska. That is not an NFL city. It's not a big city in America. I know you're a Cornhuskers fan. I've never even known this before, so this is more for me than our audience. Are you originally from Nebraska?
Yeah, I've been in Nebraska my whole life. I grew up in a town of about 4,000 people, Aurora, Nebraska.
Okay.
And kind of central Nebraska. Then went to school in Lincoln and then moved to Omaha after that.
Okay, so you're a Cornhuskers fan because you're an alumni of Lincoln?
Yeah.
And do you go to their games and such?
Yeah, not as many as I used to when we were good. And then also I've gotten a lot busier with fantasy football on the weekends as well. Yeah. So it's tough especially with COVID now. There's more stuff to do on Saturday than there used to be. So
they should have stayed in the conference that they were in with Oklahoma. I loved all that. But all right, so you mentioned fantasy sports, and again, I don't know this. When did you get involved in fantasy sports? When did you start in fantasy sports? What sport did you get involved in first?
I think the first time I played was probably around 2001 or 2. My uncle and I heard about the WhackOff. And we said, what the hell, this sounds like fun. So we went out there together a few times, did back then people did one team,
Right.
And it wasn't my primary focus. I was a sports gambler making a lot of money on the offshore sportsbook market back then. Yep. And then kind of when in 2008, the government took some steps to kind of shut that down when they kind of shut down poker.
Yep.
And so I just thought, with all the prop betting I was doing and gambling, I thought maybe it would make sense to try gravitating to supplement my income into fantasy sports. And so 2008 was the first time I played big fantasy football. By big, I had like 30 teams. Yeah. And most of them were in that FFO or whatever it was called.
Oh, FFO scheme.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
And that was a horrifying experience. A lot of the guys on there listening probably know the story, but I'll keep it short. But
that one had the $1 million prize, right? The $1 million prize.
Yeah, it's sort of like your cut line contest works. Right. So you had to keep making cuts, and then eventually the 7,000 teams got whittled down to the final 15.
Right.
And I actually got 2 of them to the final round at the Bellagio. And going into the Sunday night game, I had about a 26-point lead with the Giants defense left against D'Angelo Williams, who was playing against the Giants defense. And he was in a timeshare with Jonathan Stewart back then. So, and it's non-PPR. I had a damn good chance, like 90 plus probably to win at that point. And Jonathan Stewart hurt on his first carry of the game, and 4 D'Angelo touchdowns later, it got away from me, and I got second for $100,000. Very frustrating.
Yes, that was at the Bellagio. I believe Jerry Rice was there as well, right?
And he was. It was awesome. That Sunday night after, we did get to party with Jerry Rice until about 4 a.m. It was a good time, but I would rather have it would have been a lot better time if we had had that Sunday night game go a little better.
Yeah.
But
So the guy who beat you, his last name was Schroeder too, wasn't it?
yeah, Shane Schroeder. Nice.
Shane Schroeder,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't know him at all, though, right? And he's played with us before. I think he's from Colorado or something.
I know him. I keep in touch with him a little bit here and there,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
he's a nice guy. I actually we wanted to get out of the Bellagio on Monday night after the game, go to a little divier place. So Dwayne McFarland and I and Shane and whoever all was with us, we went to some divey bar and had some beers and had a good time. So
cool. Well, that's interesting. So you were into sports gambling first, saw WCOFF. They had a $200,000 grand prize. You decided to go out to Las Vegas, so you drafted a few times there as well. What was your experience like in the WhackOff then?
Oh, it was, nothing like you see these days because it was the only game in town. And walking into that room, it was like something that times change now. But it was a unique experience that unfortunately we'll probably never see again. But it was really, really awesome. Unfortunately, over the years, my experience with them didn't turn out quite so well.
I was at that first one too in 2002 at MGM Grand. They had 47 leagues, I believe it was. It was fantastic. At one point, they had 72 leagues at one point. And when you think about it, how dumb we all were. I mean, I ran live events too. Everybody flew out there for one draft, one main event. You might have done an auction on Friday, but there was only one main event. Why we didn't say, hey, you know what? We got this ballroom all day. Why don't we just do it again? Who wants to do another one? We never even thought of that. And
that's part of the thing that made it so fun, though. I mean, you got to enjoy Vegas.
Right. Everybody did that one time. So it was that one experience. And it really was something. There's no doubt about it. And, kudos to Emil and Lenny, because that was a hell of a debut for them to put all their money on the line there. And, they basically broke even that first year, but from that point on, it was much better. So here's one thing. I know you won the World Championship of Fantasy Baseball. That was the first year, I think, Dustin and Jesse started it. And it was like a $200,000 grand prize. You did win that first year, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I jumped in at the 11th hour. I never played fantasy baseball before. And there was a huge overlay. And unfortunately, that led to kind of part of the demise. So I ended up getting stiffed they ended up owing me over $250,000 when it was all said and done.
Wow. Really?
I won their 25K football league as well that they stiffed me for, and half the baseball. So it was frustrating. And just to be clear, that's not when Emil and Lenny were still operating it. They had sold it by then to some different characters, and they are characters.
Yeah, 2008 they sold it to Jesse and Dustin Ashby, and that wasn't. They came after us actually in baseball because we had been pretty established. They played with us for quite a while in baseball from the beginning actually, and they went with a $200,000 grand prize and decided to not reduce the grand prize. I think it was, didn't you get like 100,000 you had to write for them or something like that too? Did that work out?
Say that again?
Didn't you have to write for them to get 100,000 out of that 200,000?
Oh yeah, I did have to do a little bit of writing. Yeah, I forgot about that.
There was some stipulation that we're going to give you 100,000, then another 100,000 after you write for us or something like that. So, oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, it was frustrating to say the least, but winning that was fun though, and that got me into fantasy baseball, and I started playing with you guys the following year.
Right. So I got to ask you, how did you not leave the industry after getting ripped off for $250,000? I mean, seriously, I'm glad that you trusted us. I'm glad you came over to baseball with us and you had fun. You came out live. We'll talk about that. But how did you stay in the industry? I mean, in sports gambling, you don't even get taken for $250,000 by bad operators.
Well, I mean, I just tried not to look at it as though I lost $250,000. I really, still profited in the whole debacle, but
Yeah.
and I realized that I had some talent for it.
Yeah.
I think maybe in some ways I'm better at baseball than I am football, but I don't like it. That's why I don't play anymore. But
Yeah.
but I just I think at that time I thought I had a talent for it, and I found that there's trustworthy places to play.
Yeah.
And and I also was used to getting stiffed because I got stiffed by offshore sports books for, all those up, and it's probably $500,000. So it's not like it was something I hadn't been through before. So.
Yeah. Well, awesome for sure. So you knew of us. I think the first time you played with us was 2010. You did football actually. So I'm going to talk about that. But first of all, I just want everyone to know how successful you've been in our contest. Okay. So again, you started in 2010. You missed 1 year because of the pandemic. So in 12 seasons in the NFFC, you've won $1,348,475. $1,348,475. You're the career earnings leader in the NFFC. During five NFBC seasons, you won $529,225. You're still third on our career earnings list, even though you haven't played since 2015. I know it's not about the money, but come on, $2 million in prizes from just our two contests. That's pretty damn good, don't you think?
Well, there's a lot of entry fees involved too, but
it's not $2 million. I know that. But it's good though, right? I mean, come on, it's you've done a great job, and $2 million is damn good. So kudos, my man. So
thank you.
All right, let's talk about football. The first year you joined the NFFC was 2010. Again, you've probably been playing in WCOFF since 2002, 2003. You joined the Diamond League, the Ultimate League, the Super League, the Classic League, the Primetime, and the Online Championship. So you were all in with us, which was great. Why did you trust us enough to come into all of those contests? I mean, seriously, again, you hadn't been ripped off completely yet, but how did you trust us to play that much with us the first year?
For being honest, it was conversations with you. You're the type of person in the industry, we've had disagreements here or there over the years, of course, but as I have with every operator. But at the end of the day, there's nobody in the industry that if I shake his hand, I would trust that that their word on that more than I do you. And that was, and looking into your reputation and your passion, and the way you weren't making ridiculous guarantees and overlays. You're careful about it. You'll make a good decision if you have to, even though you don't want to. Things like that, all weighed into it. And that's basically why I trusted you guys.
Perfect. I appreciate that all. So the first year you were playing in the NFFC, you won the NFFC Primetime overall title. Now the grand prize was only $50,000 that year. You played in one Primetime league that year. You won your league title and you won the overall title. Do you remember much from that first season? It was 2010.
I do remember it. I have asked you a few times over the years to try to dig up what my roster is, because I like to I make baseball card or football card montages.
Yep.
With every player that was on my roster during the season. I make one, and they're pretty cool, and I've never got one made for that team, but it was probably the best team I ever had in any contest ever. It was really dominant. I led the regular season overall, and then won the shootout as well. And I had so many options to put in there. It was an incredible team. I don't remember all the cast of it, but it was an amazing team.
Yeah, it was our one football season with Liberty Media, and then we switched over to Stats, and Liberty never really sent the entire year. So it's kind of our missing year in our database is 2010, and Lord help us if we could ever find it from Liberty Media. So it's I feel bad about it, but I guess shit happens during the times. We've had some interesting times where I've had to buy the company from a company like Liberty Media to keep us afloat. So unfortunately, we didn't get the stats for that one. All right, let's talk about NFBC. So the first time you joined the NFBC was 2011. You had just won the WCUFB and had gotten like $100 grand, I guess, from it. You came to Las Vegas. I can remember it in my mind right now. It was the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. We all got together down in the Bellagio Sportsbook. Nobody had ever met you before. Everybody was happy to meet you. I can remember us drinking beers down there. Do you remember that first live event at the Bellagio for NFBC?
Absolutely, and I that's one thing that I will take away from my experiences, and as I slow down my rated teams down the road, I will get out to Vegas again, and I have a lot of great friends that I met that I really like from those baseball leagues, that I'm still in touch with once in a while, and that the camaraderie at your contests are second to none. I think people, make more lifelong relationships at your contest than everywhere else.
The baseball is really special right now too, because East Coast guys come now there for that one weekend, and it's just a dandy. In fact, next year's our 20th anniversary for baseball. It's hard to believe we've been doing this 20 years. I was the editor of Fantasy Baseball, Fantasy Sports Magazine for 20 years. So if I can handle 20 years in publishing and 20 years in the games operation, then I think it's time to retire to a pontoon right out there, to be truthful. But looking forward to
you gotta hang in there a few more years.
I want to live for a few more years, definitely. No doubt about that. Okay, so the first year of NFBC, and again, like you say, you didn't even like baseball all that much. You got into it. You win a national title somewhere else. You come over to our place. You won 7 NFBC league titles that first year. You won the Las Vegas main event, Las Vegas Auction Championship. Yes, you were in auctions. We had a live double play in Las Vegas. You won that one too. You competed in our first NFBC Diamond League. In fact, you even competed in the Ultimate Auction League, Sean. Chad, I don't remember you doing auctions all that much, but you're in the Ultimate Auction League. So what did you learn that first year of baseball when you won 7 league titles?
I learned and back then I kind of liked fantasy baseball, but over the years I just would live and die by every pitch too much, and it's just too long. I'm not quite wired for it. Fantasy football, at least it's over on Monday night for a few days. But fantasy baseball is a long, grueling thing.
Right.
But I really enjoy it, those memories. But I realized when I had that big year with Joe that last year, and we won the primetime and the online championship.
Yep.
And I still didn't like it. It's probably time to give it a rest for a while.
Yes, 2015 was a historical year. You won the online championship, the RotoWire online championship, the prime time. We had a $75,000 cash bonus for anybody who could do that. You did that. You won almost $300,000. It was the best season ever until Phil Dussault last year topped it. But and then you left. And like you said, you lived on every pitch. You lived on every fab. Sunday nights were grueling for you. And you walked away after that. And I know you don't regret it, do you? I mean, it was a grind doing fantasy baseball that much, right?
It really was. And that year we had a lot of teams, and we kind of got in a rhythm. And at the end of the day, I did the fab, but the supporting documents Joe did on spreadsheets and stuff to make it easy on Sundays was amazing. And he's such a good friend of mine to this day. And so that's one of the best friends I've made through my fantasy experiences. We talk all the time. And very grateful for that. He always tries to talk me into it, and it almost gets me every year. And now there's times I consider coming back just to play a couple main events,
Yeah.
And I don't. Now the game's changed so much. I just think I'd be so far behind.
Yeah, definitely the categories are much different now, and you certainly don't need as many stolen bases, but wins are hard to catch, and it's a very tough game right now. I mean, I got to believe once you start getting into football prep and football drafts, the baseball just wears you out. I think you would have to cut back on your football a whole lot, and I don't blame you for what you're doing. Can I ask, are you playing DFS baseball? Is that easier for you to do, and are you doing that?
This is the first year I haven't played a single
Really?
day of DFS baseball. It wasn't my brain's just not quite wired right for DFS. I've been a break-even player over the last 7-8 years, and I played very heavy volume. And I finally withdrew all my money from DraftKings recently. Well, almost all of it. And realize there's just better things to focus my attention on. Enjoy life a little bit. I don't need to be grinding that out, and I'm not good enough to make money at it. So
absolutely, you're making good money on football, and you're one of the best in football. There's no doubt you're one of the best in baseball, and guys still ask if you're coming back. I think more because they don't want you to come back than asking if you are coming back. But no, you were one of the best because you're a grinder. I got to ask you. So let me just ask you about winning formulas, whether it's football, baseball, or whatever. There's the draft, there's setting lineup, and there's fab. Let me ask you about the draft. How important is the draft to winning fantasy football, let's say? What percentage? Is it 50, 75, 90? Can you win with a bad draft, or do you have to have a good draft to win?
I don't think you can win with a bad draft. And you can't probably win an overall with even a mediocre one, but you can definitely grind and make your league playoffs. Like if it's a contained league, you can grind and get third or fourth place if you have a mediocre lineup. If you work and hit on a couple things in the free agent runs and make good lineup decisions.
So what do you think the draft is percentage-wise?
My specialty is I grind. So.
Correct. So what is the draft percentage-wise you think to winning a title?
We talking an overall contest like the primetime?
Yeah.
Never really thought about it, but probably 75, 80%.
I would agree. I say 75%. You can't win without a good draft. So what about fab? You are a grinder. You are one of the best grinders in the industry. You put so much time into fab each week. How important is that to win an overall title?
It's extremely important. Just to give perspective, like some of my smaller dollar contests, like the online championship at your place, and football guys elsewhere, those $350 slot type ranges. I oftentimes just run out of time and don't get to them on Wednesday. And my teams throughout the year are like, I even won the regular season in that contest last year, but my team was getting a little bit worse and not as deep as it went on. And you gotta have 20 upside guys on your team at all times, They're 18 with a kicker and defense. And I noticed that my online championship teams get worse throughout the year, and hopefully my other ones are getting better. But
so the question from Kevin Williamson is, when do you start on waivers each week? Because you do have hundreds of teams. So do you start right away after fab is done the previous week?
No, but I am going to reevaluate my process this year. I'm going to try to be a little more focused and get going a little earlier. Typically, I did not start my fab, and people will not believe this, until Wednesday morning.
Wow. I would not believe that.
And I would lightning blaze through, about 3 minutes a team. But the problem there, and it happened a couple times last year, and it could have happened a lot more. I was a little lucky, but if there's late breaking news on a Wednesday afternoon and I need to go in and adjust everything, then I'm not going to get to a whole bunch of teams. So I got to do a better job of using Tuesday for sure and get going, getting my smaller teams and bad teams out of the way on Tuesday. And
well, I got to tell you, we've got a software feature that you're going to love this year, and talk to Joe about it. But you can copy your bid, so you can do one team where you're looking for all the free agents that need to be picked up, and you can copy that to every one of your teams, and the software will tell you if that free agent is available in there. It'll leave a blank space, so you can either put a new guy or something. It's going to save you hours and hours and hours. The guys in baseball just love it. And we got a video we'll show you if you need to, but talk to Joe. That the software is unbelievable. Yeah, it's gonna save you an awful lot of time. All right, last one then. So set lineup. I mean, that's part of the equation as well. It may not be as important as grinding and drafting, but how important and how do you set lineup for all of your teams?
I usually I'm so darn worn out, on one I go through and just set the Thursday game players for Thursday. And then I usually don't go back until I'll set it on Saturday for that second run of Fab and see if I have a hole that I don't like in my team with buys and whatnot. And then try to address that position on Fab using kind of daily fantasy concepts. I think that's one thing that daily fantasy did is help me become a better full season player, because I kind of treat each week like a daily fantasy lineup on my full season teams.
Right. Definitely. Hey, I got to ask you, what's the hardest sport to gamble on? So you had gambled before. What's the hardest sport to gamble on?
I made money on everything. Every sport that I've gambled on over the years, but I don't.
That's a good answer.
I don't know.
Cool. All right, sounds good. So, talking about the prime time, you've won 2 overall titles. You won in 2010, like we said. You also won in 2018. You've won 21 primetime league titles. You won 7 league titles last year. So I got to ask you, when you're drafting, are you drafting to win a league title, or are you drafting to win an overall title? How does that work? I mean, obviously you're going for the big prize. I know that. But when you're drafting, is that what you're thinking of? Or are you first trying to win that league prize and you'll take care of the overall later on?
I am fully trying to just be competitive within my league. And I think the overall is just too fluky and things like that. Maybe I will, use a stack to be a tiebreaker. If I Cooper Kupp or something, maybe I would take Stafford instead of an equal quarterback to break the tie. Things like that. But generally speaking, I just try to get out of my league, and I've won many overall titles. I've won a bunch at a lot of places, and a lot of them were definitely not the best team in the contest. Yeah. So with weird guys that nobody hardly had, so just get in there and then just let the randomness play itself out. I think that people might overdo it, looking too much at the schedule and stacking and all this and that.
Correct.
But
I think it's a great answer, because I have talked to people before and they go, well, of course I'm going for the overall. I'm looking at week 17. I'm looking at weeks 15 to 17. I'm going for the overall. But I would think you would be drafting within your league first and then hoping that it takes off. Yeah, you might have a stack of somebody in week 17, but you never know how it's going to shape up in week 17. So I think it's an honest answer, and I haven't heard people say it the way you have.
Yeah, I mean, another way to put it is if you got a few guys in that league stacking, doing stacks for late in the season, and different people have different agendas, and sometimes that allows guys to slip to spots where they shouldn't be available. And if I have a lot of teams in the contest, and I try to get guys where they're not available, that I don't have a lot of, shares of. Maybe I try to get them when they become available at a price they usually aren't.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about last year. Like I said, you won 7 primetime league titles. You had a great year with us last year, but weeks 15 to 17 did not go for you, right? I mean, last year that Burrow Chase stack was the winning stack, and that carried a lot of people all the way to the title. And I know you were frustrated in weeks 15 to 17, but you had a great year. It just didn't work out for you in 15 to 17. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I like to play downhill during the season. And I definitely did that last year. Everywhere, not just your place.
Right.
So I was way up before the races even started, with league money everywhere. And that's all you can ask for. And things didn't really break my way in the shootout, but that's the way it goes. So I did have Chase in a diamond league and won that diamond league. So at least I didn't have a ton of him, but at least I had him in one big spot there. So.
Well, like you said, those stacks are tough to predict. I mean, who really did predict the Burrow Chase stack, right? I mean, Chase was dropping everything in preseason. Burrow wasn't even a QB1 at the time of draft day and such, and then those two just went off. So I got to ask you.
That's the type of stack, though, that's easy to acquire.
Sure.
If you have Chase already. Burrow's was a good QB2 with upside. So that's the type of stack that makes sense that I should be doing a better job of trying to acquire if I have Chase. But when I'm doing 4 or 5 drafts at a time, I don't even know who I have. That's another reason I don't stack.
Well, that was my next question.
At once.
Yeah, that was my next question. Do you stack? Because there are people who go into a draft and they stack. But like you say, you're doing multiple drafts, so maybe you don't even look at your draft board in that league while you're drafting. But
it plays to my favor, though, sometimes, because I just end up with a lot of talent that falls where it shouldn't be falling too.
Yeah.
And it's a little sometimes mismatched lineups, but overloaded at one position or another sometimes, but then it narrows the focus on the wire and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. All right. Kevin's got another question for you here. Besides the AFC West, what teams, players are you wanting the most shares of this year? Have you done some work already? I mean, the AFC West is going to be a shootout division for sure. Anybody else that you're looking at shares of players this year?
Ask me in August. I don't start getting into this until August.
So that was going to be my question. Okay, you're not playing baseball right now. You're not doing DFS baseball. Are you diving? I know you don't do best ball draft, or maybe you are doing underdog. I don't know.
Not till August.
Okay, so why do you wait until August?
I trying to find a little more balance in my life, to be honest, and enjoy myself a little bit more instead of working all the time. And so I'm enjoying my summer, going to a lot of my nephew, niece's games and coaching my nephew's basketball team, and just getting out and doing more stuff and enjoying my life a little bit more than I have in the past. And because I'm very, very busy in the fall and winter. So
absolutely,
I just don't want to be bunkered up year round anymore. That's one reason. And then also I don't get preconceived biases in my head that sometimes my peers can't get off of in time, or they're just stubborn a little bit, maybe. I'm not talking all of them or anybody in specific, but sometimes I think that can be a detriment if you make up your mind too early on guys and can't get off that opinion. And I don't have an opinion until August, so it's and I'm very open to changing it on every day. So.
I like your first answer because I'm glad that you're getting a good balance in your life. There's nothing better than your health and a good peace of mind. And this is all for fun. And even if making money, take care of your mind first. So I'm happy to hear that part. The second part was the right answer. I didn't think you wanted to get preconceived ideas about certain guys and hang on to those for 4 or 5 months. I mean, some people draft so early. By the time they get to the end, they've already made up their mind on what guys are going to do, whereas you kind of wait towards the end, and I like that. I got to ask you about rookies. So a lot of people draft before the NFL draft. They get steals at that, value of that player. Najee Harris was a guy last year, went too low beforehand, goes to Pittsburgh. He's going in the first round. What are your thoughts on rookies? Are they overvalued? Do you try to stay away from them? Do you try to get the hype on them? Do you draft a lot of rookies? What's your thoughts?
I don't really have a bias against them. It does seem like maybe, especially in the overall contests, I think they tend to go a little bit earlier than they should. So I maybe end up a little bit light on them. But then, look at Chase last year, he wins people a lot of money. So I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's, I probably just end up overweight on them slightly, but not necessarily by design or anything like that.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to talk about one other contest we had. That's the Classic. You've won 13 NFFC Classic League titles. That's the most in our history. Now, the Classic is a 14-team league. It's a format we started in 2004. Why did we do that? Well, WCOFF already had the 12-team market, and we started baseball with 15-teamers, and people loved it, so we came out with a 14-teamer. We didn't feel we could compete against WCOFF. It grew for a while, but it's just such a churn rate on that one. People get burned out by it and such, and so it just has fallen down. This year, it's just going to be league prizes. Let me ask you about the 14-team format. Forget about everything else. I mean, you haven't won an overall on that one. That's a tough one. I mean, we've had 18 league or overall title winners, different ones in 18 years. Do you like that 14-teamer from the competition standpoint at all? Even though this year we can't have an overall grand prize, do you like that from a competitive balance or not?
I love that contest. That's why I play so many teams in it. And I'm sad to see it go because I'm frustrated that I've never won it. I feel like I should have won it before with that many chances, but I love it though. I mean, I think it plays to my strengths of grinding and having it's harder to have a good, solid, deep team in that. And I really enjoyed it. And I also just want to mention, while I'm thinking about it, when I think of the Classic League, I think of my friend Jared Danielson. And we were starting to get close and talk a lot on the phone. And I didn't even hear the news because I don't think his friends or anything had my number or his family. I found out well after, a week or two after he passed, but he always wanted me to write a book with all my stories and sort of a fantasy football advice book combined with a lot of gambling and fantasy stories that he loved to hear. And I think I'm going to make that happen here in the near future. Nice. But I just wanted to mention his name because he's such a nice guy. And when I think of Classic, I think of him. He loved that format more than anybody.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He's in a 14-team super auction, and he says anybody who wins that league should be in the Hall of Fame. That's the toughest contest in the industry, 14 teams in an auction format. And he just loved it. And he was in Las Vegas at the Bellagio, 14-team super auction league. He just loved it. He loved everybody there. And 36 years old, Chad, 36 years old. And you would never have imagined that the guy wouldn't be with us the next year, and it's so sad. I mean, we've got to do something. We've got to name some contest or something after him.
Absolutely.
He was so close to being in the Hall of Fame, and he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame, and he was so busy with work the last couple of years that he hadn't had the best years. But no, that's why when you said you're taking care of your health and enjoying your summer, I was glad to hear that from you because I think we all have to do that. Again, this is a hobby. So, but I'm glad you love the Classic because Jared, and there's so many veterans who love it, but again, the churn rate, the ROI just isn't there like the 12-teamers are. And so I just had to make a tough decision, and I'm disappointed that we won't have the overall this year, but we just have to get on with it. So, but again, thanks for mentioning Jared because he's a great team. So let me ask you, because you draft online and you draft multiple teams at once, what's the most you do at one time? How many teams can you draft at one time?
I could comfortably do 4, and your software really makes it easy how the changes you made in the last couple of years. Where you can load up your order by position, beforehand, and so basically you don't need to be crossing off any names. It's all right there for you.
Right.
And that makes it a lot easier to do more at once with your company.
Mhm.
I'll get myself in some pickles where I'll be doing 5 or 6 usually for just a short time, maybe 10, 15 minutes,
Yeah.
But usually I like to keep it at 4 at the most. And if I'm doing some more important ones, maybe 3, but.
So the first time I ever saw you do multiple ones, and I knew a couple guys were doing them. I knew Brian Owens was doing multiple ones at once and such, was at the 2012 Diamond Football. You were in the Diamond League, we're at the Bellagio, and you were doing 2 other ones. And I knew you did multiple ones at once, but I thought, the Diamond League, what are you doing another one for? And you said it actually helps me, right? You keep more focused, you get bored when you're just doing one. Is that correct?
I don't overthink anything. I just see what's available when it's my turn and which pick makes the most sense, rather than overthinking it and trying to get cute. And I don't know if it would be because I got bored. I just think that it helps me to do multiple things at once.
Yeah, and not overthink it, like you said. So there are other contests, like you said. We know FFBC and the other one in Las Vegas as well. It's great for the industry to have multiple contests. I mean, again, it's great for competition. It's great for the players. You can do multiple ones at once and such. And all of the games are different. They have different scoring formats and stuff. So, I mean, you like playing all of the games, right? I mean, and again, this isn't an NFFC. This is high stakes. I'm glad that you play multiple ones. I'm glad you win in multiple ones. And again, I think it's good for the industry in football, don't you?
I love it because I used to kind of, I would kind of battle with Dave and Alex about the 1.5. That's kind of dumb. I'd kind of battle with you. The 6 points is kind of screwy. But over the years, I've kind of come to enjoy all the different quirks of all the different games. I used to hate the 3rd round reversal. I just added another pain in my butt. Just come on, Greg, just give me my slot. And so it's not my fault that I mess up my own team, But I've come to like all these things, and they allow me to kind of own different players where it makes the most sense to own more of them at the different contests. And I like it that there's multiple places to play.
Yeah, no, I think it's good for the industry as well. How many lineups, how many teams will you have at the end of this football season, you think, between all the high stakes contests?
I don't know. I need to do a better job of keeping track, but I am going to do more Bestball this year and try to, get closer to the maximum limits at some of the Bestball contests than I have before. But I don't yet know how that'll impact the rest of things. Yeah. I think that I'm going to go real big one more time, though. Cryptocurrency's been kicking my butt, so I need to try to make some money.
I hear you there. So what do you think of all these the Bestball market and how it has grown to where you got $1 million prize, $250,000 prizes and such like that? I mean, for someone who's been in the industry this long, I remember Draft Masters. I never expected this to grow to the way it has. I understand why it's grown. You just draft and you're done. Let the computer pick your lineups. But what are your thoughts on Bestball's growth in the fantasy football industry?
I mean, it kind of makes sense because it's in a sense, it's more similar to DFS than the full season football is, with the grind of the free agent wires and stuff. Right. And the popularity of DFS over the years is obviously ballooned. And so it makes sense that there were some people that took advantage of that and had the foresight to develop these big contests. And they're kind of, they're almost too big, though. You feel like you really don't have a very realistic shot at it. And that's where stacking does make more sense. And that's really not how I like to draft, is worried about all kinds of quirky strategies and stuff. But so it might not, I'll probably play some of the higher dollar ones that it's not quite so many people in the contests, but throw in some of those lottery tickets. But.
Yeah. One of the big strategies in fantasy football is zero running back. Do you ever do zero running back strategy?
Oh, I end up not by design, but I end up being involved in every kind of strategy, and even some that nobody even has heard of yet. Uh, just because I draft for value and the best player off the board, and in that format, and I'm not scared to take 5 wide receivers if that's what they're leaving me to start the draft. I'm not scared to take 3 running backs in my first 4 picks if that's what they're leaving me. So by happenstance, I'll end up trying everything, and I think I'm skilled enough to make it work. Just because I've done more drafts than probably damn near anybody. Unless you're counting Bestball in there, but I probably have done more full season drafts than damn near everybody. So I think I have enough drafting skill to be a little more creative than some people might be, but it doesn't always work. You end up with some really garbage teams doing that too.
Some of the high stakes name players and such write content now for sites. You talked about a book, like you should write a book someday, obviously. How come you haven't ever gone that route? Hasn't anybody talked you into doing a weekly podcast or Chad's top picks?
I've definitely been approached, but I always decline the offers, saying that I want to leave it open to start my own if I chose to.
Yep.
And I wouldn't want to use their platform to promote my name. And they appreciate that honest response. And I also I think my skill is actually at winning in fantasy football, not player analysis and advising. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that I would be the best content person. You just really can't teach somebody how to win. They want player analysis and all that. I don't think that I would be the best person for that type of thing.
It's interesting that you say that, because people who draft with you a lot, they kind of know what players you're on after a while, or they kind of know your strategy. Like if I said to you, one of your strategies is you like to get the backup running back before he becomes elevated to the main back. That seems like something you are very, very good at. Like you might get that guy 2 weeks before everybody jumps on him in Fab. Is that a correct assessment of some of your skills?
Yes, but I will say that over the years, that's getting harder to do. But maybe like 2009 or so through 2015, seemed like I always had running backs crawling out of my butt that were quality at the end. And I probably didn't have the foresight to take advantage of it enough by going 0 RB or 1 RB and then ham and egg the other one. I probably could have taken advantage of it better if I had realized that that was what my strength was back then. But now it's much harder to do.
I think
every handcuff running back's almost owned. But
I agree.
But I am a little more aggressive than most at getting the ones that are dropped on my team. But it's getting harder and harder to do. Everybody knows all these handcuffs. So.
I've had people say to me that that's your strength, is you are able to get that running back. I had Chris Eibel on the show last week, and he said he does like to go a running no RB strategy because he thinks it's easier for him to pick up running backs off the waiver wire than wide receivers. And I thought, whoa, I know that's not my strength. I can't find running backs on the waiver wire. But like you said, maybe you should have gone more no RB or one running back and then a lot of wide receivers, because you were very good at doing that. So how about player shares? Do you look at what player shares you have and try to diversify as much as you can?
I used to more, but now I have a very good deal. It's been a great deal for my investor, but a friend of mine in Chicago, one of the bigger sports bettors in the world, he gives me a 2/3, 1/3 deal every year, where if I have a losing season, he gets 2/3 of the losses.
Oh, yeah.
And if I have a winning season, I get 2/3 of the profits. And he wants me to play aggressive. He doesn't want me to ration up guys. He prefer that we try to make a lot of money. And so I don't balance it out because my downside's not really that much. If I have a losing year, it's probably not going to be really devastating. And I hardly have ever had one. So, and then only 1/3 of those losses would be mine. So it plays to my strength to be more aggressive, and that's what he wants me to do anyway. So,
yeah, well, cool. Well, I know you're getting ready for a good year. I'm glad, Chad, that you're enjoying the summer. I'm glad you're coaching. That's all important.
That's not making my summer easier and more enjoyable.
What age are the guys you're coaching?
9.
Oh, yeah, that's a little tougher. I was going to say
We're
12,
the
13.
smallest league out of the 15. We're the smallest team by far, and we're probably one of the worst shooting teams. Also, it's kind of a tough combination.
This is basketball, I assume, right? Basketball.
Yeah, 3-on-3. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You're giving kids some lessons, and it's great. I love to coach my son, and I did it when they were very, very young. And then as they got older, I pulled back and ended up winning a state title in football. And it was the greatest achievement of my life just to watch my son out there on Camp Randall winning a state title. So it was awesome. But great talking to you, Chad. And I hope one day we do get to hook up and have some beers together, buddy. And until then, just stay healthy, stay good, peace of mind, mental health, and keep winning. You're one of the best. And I call you a friend. You're definitely one of the best in the NFFC, NFBC. Just keep it going, buddy, and we'll hook up down the line, all right?
All right, sounds great. Thanks, Greg.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see if I can get another good guest next week, all right? We're both sweating right now because we're hot in his office and in my cottage right now. So thank you much, everybody. And we'll see you next week with another show. Thank you very much. Bye.